So after a year where it feels like Wonder Woman has been delayed every 2 or 3 months, we have finally got it. Now going into Wonder Woman 1984, I didn't really know what to expect. I'm a massive fan of the original one. It's actually one of my favourite of the DCEU movies, but none of the trailers for this movie have kind of blown me away. None of them have made me go, oh my god, I have to see this now. And bear in mind, we've been seeing these trailers for about a year and a half because this originally was meant to come out back in November. So we've been seeing trailer after trailer for a year and a half now, and not a single one of these trailers have made me go, oh my god, I have to see this now. I only started getting excited for it about a week ago when I knew the movie was actually coming out. Up until that point, really didn't have much anticipation for it. I was actually really glad though I got to see this movie in the big screen. It actually came out here on December 16th because we don't have HBO Max here. They released it in cinema a bit earlier than it will be come to HBO Max just because we don't have that. So I was really glad I did get to see this on the big screen because honestly, this is a movie that is one of those movies that is just made for the big screen. One of the things I said about Tenet was after I seen Tenet was the fact that they needed to put this in the big screen because this movie is not the type of movie for streaming, and Wonder Woman 1984 is the exact same thing. This is not a movie where you could watch it on your iPad or even some people would watch it on their phone. It needs to be seen on the big screen. It demands it to be seen on the big screen. The movie itself is absolutely stunning. So many scenes, so many bright colors, and the fact that it's based in the 80s really helps it with that. So many bright, amazing, beautiful colors, the amazing scenes in the clouds, fireworks, beautiful, absolutely demands the big screen. The sound coming from all over, absolutely. If you have the opportunity, I recommend you see this in the big screen because it just helps the experience just by it being on the big screen. But the movie itself, as I said, I wasn't really anticipating it that much. But as me and my girlfriend were walking to the cinema going to see it, the question we were both asking each other was, how is Steve Trevor going to come back? I'm not going to say how he came back. I'm not going to say who was right, but we were both speculating. One of us was right. I'm not going to say who was right, but one of us was right. Anyways, I think the way he came back felt a bit forced. It felt to me at first that they set the movie up a way to bring him back and then they worked around it. It's like the idea was to bring him back and they built the whole movie around it rather than they had the movie and go, oh, we can bring him back using that. I just felt like the movie kind of, it was forced to have him in there. Now, bear in mind, I thought he was fantastic in it. I really loved the chemistry between him and Diana Prince. I think they work really well together. But I just felt that his character was forced upon in this movie. But once he was there, I did enjoy him. Talking about Diana Prince, Gal Gadot has literally made the Wonder Woman character her own. I can't even imagine anyone else betraying her because literally, when I think of Wonder Woman, I think of Gal Gadot before. Up until I think even Batman vs Superman, I think Wonder Woman, I thought, after seeing that, I thought, yeah, I do. But after seeing this movie, she is just planted in my mind that she is now Wonder Woman and she just does it phenomenally well. She looks great in the movie. Her suit, I love the suit, even the big golden suit, which in the trailers, I wasn't really a fan of. Even though the figures and all that, I wasn't a fan of this big golden suit. But seeing it in the movie, I think it works really well in the movie. The rest of the cast, you got Pedro Pascal, I think his name is. He also is our Mandalorian. It was quite weird to see him because, like, I've seen him in Game of Thrones, but that was years ago. He was in Game of Thrones. But I've just been hearing his voice lately in The Mandalorian. So actually seeing his face, it was a bit odd, but he was fantastic as our main villain. I thought he wasn't like a villain in the way of like a Thanos or even, I can't remember the guy's name in the first Wonder Woman movie. He was a completely different villain, but I just think the way Pedro Pascal played him in this movie was absolutely fantastic. As well, you have Kristen Wiig, and personally, I don't like Kristen Wiig. I don't think she's funny. I've seen her in Saturday Night Live sketches. I've seen her in loads of movies like Ghostbusters or even the Women's Hangover. What's that called? Bridesmaids. I've seen it. I've seen her in all those, and I've never thought she was funny. So I was going into this expecting not to like her, and honestly, she blew me away. I was shocked at how much I liked her character, how much I liked her storyline as well. Looking at her character, I was kind of expecting it to be one of those villains who are like, they're really obsessed with the hero. The hero turns their back on them, and then they become a villain. So I was expecting it to be like that, and I was quite surprised that it didn't really go that way. I thought it helped her character as well as me like the actress just slightly more, the fact that I didn't go down that route. So I'm actually now excited to see what Kristen Wiig does next because this is just, she's really shocked me in this movie. One of the great things about this movie as well is the action sequences. It is fantastic. In the first movie, there wasn't really as much opportunity to use fantastical action sequences because there was a lot of guns, but in this movie, there's a lot more hand-to-hand combat. She uses her atmosphere a lot more. She uses the whip a lot more. The first movie, she kind of heavily relied on a sword and her fist, but she goes full out, especially there's one scene at the start of this movie in a mall. That whole scene is so much fun, especially watching her use her lasso of I can't remember, lasso, whatever it's called, but seeing her use that, it just worked really well in this movie and fully brought it forward as using one of those more iconic weapons rather than her just using a sword. Seeing her use her lasso just worked a lot more for me. When it comes to the third act, I was pleasantly surprised because it's not like any other, not only DCEU movie, but it's not really like any other superhero movie. A lot of superhero movies, you kind of have that big blue laser in the sky, but this movie does not have that at all. So I was quite surprised to see that the movie doesn't kind of just follow the normal storylines that most comic book movies seem to be doing now. The fact that it's completely different worked really well for me. Some of the more negatives I have is the fact that I found it to be very predictable. And it's not like the fact that, because I haven't really seen the trailers, I haven't really watched them, but it's not like I watched the trailers so many times I was able to predict the movie. I just found the movie and the story to be extremely predictable. I was kind of able to predict what was going to happen 10-15 minutes before it even happened. That's not to say it was a bad movie. I loved how they told it. I just found it to be very predictable, which isn't really the best for a movie when you're sitting there able to predict it before it happens as well. I don't really know how this fits into the DCEU. I know it's based in the 80s, but it just doesn't feel like what comes after. Like, next in the timeline where we are now, Man of Steel comes next. I don't understand how this Wonder Woman universe fits in with Man of Steel. Even to continue on with Batman versus Superman, because she's in that. It doesn't feel like her character, where she is now, will go to what she's like in Batman versus Superman. Now, bear in mind, I know there's 40 years in the gap, but it just doesn't really feel like it's the same universe. It nearly feels like the Wonder Woman universe is have come completely separate from the DCU. So we're going to have the Wonder Woman in the DCU, and then we're going to have our spin-off movies that aren't in the DCU. That's what it felt like to me, because this movie doesn't feel like it's part of the DCU, especially just the way it ends and everything wraps up. I just don't really feel like this movie takes place prior to the rest of the DCEU movies. But for the most part, I really enjoyed it. Pleasantly surprised. It's in my top 5 for the year. I wasn't really expecting it to be that good. As I said, I wasn't really anticipating this movie that much. But I'm really, really glad I got to see it on the big screen. Absolutely stunning on the big screen, as I said. But let me know your thoughts on Wonder Woman 1984 in the comment section down below. Do you have to wait for it to come online, or are you seeing it on cinema, or have you already seen it in cinemas as of right now? Let me know all that in the comment section down below. If you want to hear my updated ranking for the DCEU, that will be dropping at some point this week. So if you want to hear my updated ranking, click that subscribe button. And as always, thanks for watching.